The federal government has announced its plan to phase out some fossil fuel subsidies, but not all. There are exceptions for subsidies that help reduce greenhouse gas emissions or support clean and renewable technologies or provide energy to remote communities. There are also exceptions for subsidies that respond to a short-term emergency or support Indigenous energy projects or have a credible plan to achieve net zero emissions. Environment and Climate Change Minister Steven Guilbeault says this will put an end to, quote, inefficient fossil fuel subsidies. And Minister Guilbeault joins us now from Montreal. Minister, welcome back to the show.
Thank you very much, Stephen.
You say you want to end inefficient fossil fuel subsidies. What's an example of an efficient fossil fuel subsidy, one that you are okay with keeping?
So just to help you viewers, this is a commitment that G20 countries made in Pittsburgh at the G20 meeting in 2009. And the commitment is to phase out the inefficient, and I'll get to efficient in a minute, fossil fuel subsidies by 2025. Canada is the first country of the G20 to do it 2 years sooner. What would be inefficient? But basically, it would be a subsidy that doesn't lead to the what we're announcing today is that we're stopping giving money to oil and gas companies to produce more oil and gas or even coal. What we won't stop doing is work with every sector of our economy to help them reduce their climate change pollution, whether it's steel, whether it's cement, whether it's aluminum, the auto sector, and also the oil and gas sector. So we will continue to support the decarbonization of all those sectors.
But the list of potential exceptions here seems to be quite broad. In my view, they include essential energy service for remote communities, Indigenous economic participation in fossil fuel activities, anything that enables significant GHG emission reduction. So how confident are you that the criteria will significantly decrease fossil fuel subsidies in the country?
Well, again, so the World Trade Organization definition of inefficient is, if you boil it down, basically is, are you supporting the production, the enhanced production of oil and gas or coal? And then what we're saying today is Canada's putting an end to this. For me, supporting the decarbonization of the oil and gas sector or the auto sector or the forestry sector is not, first, it's not a fossil fuel subsidy because these subsidies are available to pretty much all of our economic sectors. Like the tax credits that my colleague and friend Minister Freeland announced in the last budget are not oil and gas specific. These tax credits, whether it's for the use of renewable energy, the production of renewable energy or clean technologies, they're not only available for one sector. They're available for all sectors. So one of the things we're putting an end to is those subsidies that were aimed specifically at the oil and gas sector, and that were also aimed at increasing the production of oil and gas. We're saying that as of today, these are a thing of the past. They are few exceptions. I mean, emergency situations, I don't think it's a very broad category. Let's take a very concrete example. Nova Scotia, there may be communities that are cut off from the grid. We may be deploying diesel generators. Like these are for very specific, very targeted use. And I think we can all agree that in terms of their environmental impact compared to what the billions of dollars that used to go to the oil and gas sector, they're very minimum.
So you were interrupted at your news conference by protesters today who seemed quite angry with this approach. I mean, what do you say to Canadians to say these guidelines don't go far enough and that you're not moving fast enough?
Well, I mean, one of the protesters would like us to shut down the oil sands today. I simply, like, as someone who was in the environmental movement for 2.5 decades, I never agreed with that approach. I don't think that's the right way of doing this. We need to work with communities that will be affected by the fact that we, as a concert of nation, we will be using less and less fossil fuels moving forward, and that's true in Canada as well. As we electrify our transportation system, as we electrify our industry, we need to work with communities, with workers, and with companies to accompany them from where we are now to where we need to go. This idea that we should start shutting down entire sector and frankly entire regions of the country is not the way we have agreed to go ahead. And I could quote you, Greenpeace, Environmental Defense, the Climate Action Network, the David Suzuki Foundation, have all said very good things about today's announcement.
The New Democrats, though, your confidence in supply partners, they say this announcement doesn't meet the urgency of the moment, and they're describing your government's action on climate change as half measures. What's your response to that?
Well, the first thing I'd like to say is really to thank the NDP because we worked with them very closely for months and months to be able to land this. This was part of our supply and confidence agreement with the NDP. This is one of the condition of the survival of our government, and I really want to thank them for their support in making this happen today. Especially MP for Victoria, Laurel Collins, with whom I work closely on that. In terms of needing to do more, I agree. We need to do more. And frankly, if we needed yet another reminder of why we need to move faster when it comes to tackling climate change, I think that the summer we're going through is a very clear example of why we need to do that.
Well, Minister, you're one of the few ministers who didn't cancel their public events today, and you're going on a trip representing Canada as the Environment Minister. Should we take that as a sign that you are not moving in the shuffle that we're reporting is going to happen on Wednesday?
As you well know, David, I serve at the pleasure of the Prime Minister of Canada. As you rightly point out, I was allowed to make the announcement today, and I've been giving the green light to leave for India. This may change, and I will do what the Prime Minister asks me to do.
Okay, Minister Steven Guilbeault, thanks for your time.
Thank you very much, David.